Don't give us the bird. Don't give us your stink eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. Get Rivers sponsors. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Welcome in, everyone, to Betting Weekly Live. It is a new week here. It is Monday, the 23rd of June. You're with Steve Wyss and Will White. We're going to be continuing our coverage of the Club World Cup. Will, how has the tournament been treating you so far? Did you have a good weekend overall?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I've enjoyed it. I've had some cash and winning tickets, had some decent trades. But yeah, it's been pretty kind to me, Steve. What about you?
Up and down, some good and bad things. I've been sort of getting involved in markets I don't always get involved with, as is often the way in these sort of tournaments. I might have lost my discipline a couple of times, but all I had to do is just follow James Easham's tips on Friday. I mean, he was on an absolute fire. I mean, he always is anyway, right? But
yeah,
Club World Cup, whatever, he has more than one string to his bow, as we know.
Yeah,
So
you've got to trust James.
Yeah, big congrats to James. I think he's on actually tomorrow again, either that or Thursday. So watch out for more appearances from James Eastham. Welcome, everyone. I hope you all had a great weekend. Noah Goodman, absolutely right about James there. Whatever he says is the law. Duncan, good to see you. And Byron as well. Villa fan, Daniel Lucani, Kit Onyao as well. And Buelo Charles has been giving us some very interesting information about the African teams in this tournament. And Jason Galvin, I was looking certainly at the referee angle in the Atletico game. We'll be talking about that. Real Brendan King as well. It was a big weekend, obviously, with the sports book and a huge bet, $115,000 on the NBA championship. Thunder -7 against the Pacers, and that was a winner. I think that's the biggest wager I've ever read out on this show, actually. So congrats to that particular better. Also, $56,000 on the Thunder to win the NBA Finals at -133. So, you know, that Thunder result was very good for the for those particular bettors, Will. NBA, have you ever dabbled in that? But always is going to be a lot of big money on the championship games, isn't there?
Yeah, mate, I have played been known to play a bit of NBA in my gambling life. Was following the game last night. Well done on the Thunder -6.5 and the Thunder to win outright. I think overall deserved champions. Got a bit lucky with Tyrese going down in first quarter, but yeah, well done on those bets.
Plenty of winners on the soccer front as well. $20,000 on Man City live against Ahly at -770, but money is money. 12 grand on Borussia Dortmund live against the Mamelodi Sundowns as well. That was a wild game. 4-3. A says he's still recovering from Benfica almost not covering the goal line and handicap. The literally last second penalty did help out the majority of bettors. It was right on the mark. Was that win in the end? Just 1-0 at half time was kind of crazy. The Club World Cup now, it does reach round 3 of the group games. We're going to see teams getting eliminated as from today. And just to put the latest outright future odds for the Club World Cup, PSG have actually drifted now after that shock defeat to Botafogo last week, +300. Man City, 16 winners yesterday, cut slightly into +450. And Bayern and Real Madrid, 5-1 shots there. You go to Flamengo at 16-1, Juventus at 18s. Who's green in your book, Will, at this point in time? Who is your best result right now in the futures market for the Club World Cup?
Best results actually Benfica, but more realistically PSG and Bayern. I think PSG and Bayern are the standouts of the top 4 in the market. But yeah, looking for long shots is tough, right? Because as everybody says, really, one of the big 4 European teams should win it. Yes, the South American teams have been impressive, particularly Flamengo and Palmeiras. But yeah, still PSG have drifted, kind of rightfully so. I mean, they're less likely to win the group, right? Although they're probably still marginal favourites to win the group. Plus 300. It could still be a bet though at plus 300. What do you think?
Do you know what? I'm actually starting to believe in buying a bit more for this tournament. I really liked how they beat Boca. They dominated for an hour. Then Boca got back into it, and I think if Bayern didn't have a bit more backbone, then they might have even lost that game or drawn it. But they came back really strong. Michael Elise, this guy is really, really good. I say he's starting to become genuinely world class.
Yeah,
when you've got a player like that in your team. So I know they've always been high in your rankings for a lot of different things. Vincent Kompany has been a doubt for a lot of people, but he is now over a year into the job, and I feel like in a way Club World Cup was less pressure. So I like what I see from Bayern. They've got a massive squad as well. Massive.
Yeah. I mean, Olise's quality, isn't he? And Musiala is back now and presumably moving back towards full fitness. I guess what we're yet to see is whether, like you say, with Kompany in charge, how Bayern perform in the knockout stages. Is this going to be like a Champions League knockout stage, like lots of people have been saying, when this gets to the quarterfinals and onwards, the big European teams start playing each other? Is that where the pressure is going to be on Kompany, or is it going to be somewhere in between that and more of like a pre-season kind of friendly tournament? It's probably somewhere in between, but I'd say closer to the Champions League knockout kind of vibes than the pre-season friendly. So yeah, the pressure might be on, and we'll see how Kompany performs. But this Bayern team undoubtedly has the quality to win this tournament.
Yeah, Jason Galvin makes an interesting point about the motivation for the European teams. We know the owners want it. Do the players want it? Well, you'd have to ask them, really. Each club might have a different sort of contract situation, bonuses, things like that. That's where we'd like to know the ins and outs of it. And absolutely right, real Brandon King, the heat is no joke in some of these matches. You've got to look at the weather. You've got to consider those. But welcome into everyone. Anyone new as well, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Be greatly appreciated. We're getting close to 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube. We'd love to get over that mark as quickly as possible. And the Betting Weekly newsletter, please do sign up to that. We have 2 newsletters a week. One of them gets released today on Monday, and I can reveal there's an exclusive pick from James Easton on that newsletter, along with some tennis selections. And the Betting Weekly Insider, of course, released every Friday. And at the moment, I think there's going to be a Wimbledon special this week, in addition to a continuation of early season previews for the main European league. So do sign up. It's totally free, and it would be greatly appreciated. We are going to crack on to some action now. Group B. I don't know why they're starting with Group B getting finished, Will, but it is what it is. Is the first group that will be completely out and done. And we've got 2 matches. We've got Seattle Sounders against PSG and Atletico Madrid against Botafogo. Now, we've got a really weird situation here where we could get PSG, Atletico, and Botafogo all finishing on 6 points. And then we've got a weird tiebreak situation, which you can do the explaining for. But this will only happen, or only potentially happen, if Atletico Madrid beat Botafogo and PSG beat Seattle. We'll come to the PSG game soon, but Atletico minus 162. Not sure how many are going to take them after Botafogo had that brilliant result against PSG, or could it be a case of after the Lord Mayor's show for Botafogo, what is left in their tank as well? Atletico Madrid have got to win the game, but they've got to win by a certain margin, haven't they, Will, to have a chance of qualifying?
Yeah, they've got to win by 3 to qualify, assuming that PSG beats Seattle. And I think, given that PSG are minus 800 or a similar price to beat Seattle, that the easiest way of kind of working with this group is assuming that PSG do beat Seattle, in which case Atleti need to win by 3 to qualify, which really makes game state key in this match. And I think, although I'm probably lower on Botafogo than the market and than most people, I don't think they've been as impressive as Palmeiras and Flamengo. I think, they could have really lost both of those games so far. I think they lost the XG battle in both. They certainly did against PSG, and I think they did against Seattle as well. And Seattle aren't great, so I'm not sure this Botafogo team is that good. Although if this was kind of a more normal game state where both teams needed to win, Botafogo plus 1 goal would have been interesting. But it's so far removed from that I certainly can't back that. Somebody was mentioning in the chat, I think it was Byron and Duncan, were talking about the weather conditions. It's not going to be so hot in Pasadena for this one. I think 22 degrees Celsius is forecast for kickoff, which I think that's local time 2 p.m. or 1 p.m.
I think both matches here are midday kickoff local.
Midday kickoff. Okay,
yeah,
so that's actually going to be quite mild, right, for California, kind of midday time in this kind of extreme weather heat wave. So I think that's definitely a factor that will favour Atleti. I think Botafogo are capable of keeping this quite tight, though, at least in the first half. And I've kind of been trying to find bets here, and I quite like, with a bit of pizza money, as you'd say, Steve, the tie half time, Atleti full time at plus 380. It feels a little bit big, given I think Botafogo are probably capable of keeping this tight until half time. But with the squad depth that Atleti have, and the fact that Botafogo can afford to lose by 1 or 2 goals, I think that looks a bit too big. And then if we can imagine Atleti dominating possession here and perhaps having quite a high shot number, if you look at the shots market, the line's insanely high. It's 13.5 and over is minus 375 for Atleti shots. But I think an alternative way in at a big price is to look in the prayer props. And actually Atleti's Rodrigo de Paul to have a shot over 0.5 shots on target at plus 285. It just seems like a really big number for a game that's this important for Atleti, where they're likely to have control. And it looks like he's being priced up off this season's data, where he's only had 0.17 shots on target per 90. But if you go back to last season, he averaged 0.52 shots on target per 90. And I think, he's a big player, and I think he's likely to have a big involvement in the game. So not particularly confident about the result of this game, but I think De Paul to have a shot on target or more at plus 285, it's a big price.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting game. It's a bit of a shame that Atletico have to win by a decent margin here, otherwise I would have been looking at under 2.5 goals. I almost see Botafogo as similar to what sort of the South American version of what Atletico were themselves in Europe maybe a few years ago. They seem to, to be fair, they are the defending Copa Libertadores champions. Yeah. Seems that they have this defensive rigidity. Grind out your 0-0s and 1-0s. Don't always look amazing, but get results. And I can certainly see why the +1 would appeal to a lot of people out there. Kitonyao is asking why are fans so surprised that the South American teams are doing well. I just think the pre-tournament conception was there was a huge gulf. I think it's the time of year as well. They're right in the mid-season, and some of these European sides, it's been the end of a long, grueling campaign. No one's really had too much of a rest yet. So Random Walk says he hasn't had the motivation yet to bet on this tournament. Well, maybe today's the day you start that one, Random Walk, or are you waiting for a really juicy opportunity at some point? Effie Brilowski says, Botafogo are not playing this game not to lose. They'll score at least once. Interesting way of thinking there. Someone mentioned it cards earlier. The referee in charge is Cesar Arturo Ramos, a Mexican referee. He did Boca Benfica the other day. I mean, that was crazy in the end. And he tried to be lenient, but in the end he dished, I think, 6 cards, a red card. Red card, yes, is plus 295 here. That wouldn't be a particular surprise, would it, with the way Atletico play? But yeah, I do kind of like the cards. The card line overall, though, is for this game, over 4.5 is minus money, minus 148. You have to go to 5.5 for plus money, which is
high.
Yeah, it is. It is high, especially when the thing with the Mexican referee, everyone's thinking, oh, he's going to go crazy. He will let a lot go as well. So, but I do think red card, yes, could be a possible play.
Yeah.
at plus
I'd prefer the red card. Did you say plus 285 or plus
295? Yeah,
295. Yeah, I think that's probably a better bet than going up to the 5.5 to get plus 108 on the overall cards.
Yeah. So Rodrigo de Paul, that's your sort of your best play for the game. The over 0.5 shots on target. My cat just, I don't know why, he's been quiet all day. When he hears me come on live on stream, he can't help himself. Just looking at some of the other comments here. Tristan Wiggles taking Botafogo plus 3/4 of a goal. And Kitchener thinks Seattle's going to get rolled. We're going to come to that very soon. Brad Betts, good to see you as well. And we'll talk about that tie later in the Inter Miami game. Random Waters tuning to see Kit Kat. He's not here for the betting, he's here for the cats. Both to get a red at 30-1, says Tristan. That I've seen worse. I'd like sort of 40 or 50 to 1 on that sort of bet, but Kit Kat's liking the red card both teams. You want a red? You want to see that red card go today, boy? Okay, let's move on to the Seattle Sounders against PSG. PSG minus 770 favourites here. Seattle Sounders 14-1. They are out of the tournament. They'll be playing for pride only. PSG, we're expecting a reaction. Luis Enrique said they've got to be better in this match, and I think this could be completely one-way traffic, really will. It's just a question of how many they get before they call off the dogs. I just don't see any problems for PSG in this game.
Yeah, I think, Steve, it was telling that general pattern for sharp players or sharp bettors so far this tournament is to be backing underdogs on the big plus handicaps. You've seen most have been smashed in overnight or early morning day of game. But in this game, and actually Botafogo themselves have been, Seattle have been backed in by the sharp players in both of their games so far. But in this market, it's been one-way money for PSG. They've gone from -2 to -2.25. I think it's fully justified. I mean, they kind of, after the 4-0 Atlético win, I think they just kind of took their foot off the gas and their eye off the game a little bit. They rotated a lot. Against Botafogo. They won the XG battle. They lost the game. And I think they're going to be on it here. I think the big guns will come back in. Bradley Barcolas looks to have made a return from injury. He'd probably end up starting here. But I took PSG yesterday on the -2 line. The -2.25 is a little bit aggressive. You'd lose half stake if they win by 2, but I think they'll win by more. Maybe there'll be some money come for Seattle here, but it's really it's hard to see PSG not winning by 2 or more. If you're not so keen on taking him on the 2.25 line, player props look interesting for PSG as well. Like I said, Barcola's back. He's probably going to start here, and he's plus 138 to score any time, or minus 148 if you want to be a bit more conservative to score or assist on the player specials. And then another guy who I think is going to come back in. He didn't start the Botafogo game, but Nuno Mendes, I know he's a favorite of the show. I think he'll be back into starting 11 here, and plus 125 or better for him to register a shot on target, I think is really too big. If you look at Seattle's right-hand side, Alex Roldan and Jesus Ferreira, it's quite vulnerable defensively, and I can see Mendes on the left having a real field day and a big involvement with Barcola. I think Kvaratskhelia might be rested here, but if it's Barcola or Kvaratskhelia, whoever starts there, I think they're going to really be able to team up on that Seattle right-hand side and have a field day. So if you can get a decent price plus money on a Mendes shot on target, I think that couples quite nicely with Barcola any time or to score or assist.
I really like some of these player props today. I also like PSG -1 Asian handicap first half at -104. I think they come out of the traps really quickly. Someone's asking win to 0. I'm a bit worried about a backdoor cover from Seattle, like last 10 or 15 minutes when the game's done. Seattle are playing for pride, get a goal on the board. I could see that happening. If PSG are 4-0 up, so I'd be a bit wary of win to 0. Barcola, I really like him today. I mean, L'Equipe's predicted lineup for this game, the front three is Barcola on the left, Kvaratskhelia starting as a false 9, and Doué on the right. Okay. In which case, I think Barcola over 1.5 shot on target at plus 160 with Bet Rivers is a massive price. And anytime scorer, like you said, it's plus 138 now. I think Barcola is going to want to show what he's got in this game. no doubt about it. And he won't be shy of a shot. I mean, Kvaratskhelia is minus 120 for over 1.5 shots on target as well. That is, I think it's probably worth a bet, because if he doesn't start, that'll just be void. And if he is going to start, then we know it's probably going to be in that false 9 spot. So you're right. This is my strongest sort of plays of the day, really. That first half handicap on PSG.
Yeah, like
Kvaratskhelia and Barcola. Brad Betts thinks that PSG will score 5 or more. They need momentum. I think we'll get a reaction from, that's for sure. Effie says PSG team total over 2.5. And Noah Goodman, he's thinking over 3.5 or over 1.5 in the first half. I do like that over 1.5 in the first half as well, really. But I prefer the -1 Asian handicap, covers for the 0-1, which could happen. So we've got plenty of plays on the game. Just some splits on this one is 98% of the money's on PSG, over under money, more money on the over, 69% of it. No real surprises. There's a house special here. I forgot about the one for Atletico Madrid to score in each half against Botafogo, plus 180. And there's an Ousmane Dembele special in the PSG game to score or assist the first goal at plus 123. I don't know exactly what his fitness status is, though, Will, to be honest.
I'm pretty sure he's out. So I'm not sure I'd be back in that. But it does open an opportunity to get involved in the other players that are obviously going to start. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious Doué will start, pretty obvious Barcola will start, and then it's down to Ramos or Kvaratskhelia. And given you get your money back on if they don't start, you've got a free roll on Kvaratskhelia there, who was the one you mentioned, and then Barcola, who we both mentioned. I think he's probably most nailed on to start. And what we didn't mention on our breakdown, Steve, is Barcola. Another factor with Barcola is Luis Enrique has come out and said that he won't be leaving. I know Bayern was sniffing. And Barcola, I believe he said he's also happy with the kind of rotation policy and the minutes he's getting at PSG, and he's committed and wants to stay. So it just feels like the stars are aligning for him to have a big game. And this Seattle team, they're just not very good. I mean, I know they won the XG battle against Botafogo, but I don't know. I just don't know if I trust them, especially at the back.
Yeah, there's one player in the Seattle team who I actually quite like. I don't know if he's going to start or not. It's the guy who's blind in one eye. And his name is Georgi Minongu. He's got something about him, this lad. He's got a great physical presence. And he always comes off the bench about 25 minutes to go, and he makes things happen. I just wonder if they might float him a start here. Plus 170 for a shot on target. I really like this guy. I think he's got a point to prove. So keep my eye out on him. But defensively, I think they're awful. Seattle Sounders.
That is a left field pick there, Steve. Minoglu, or I think you pronounced it better than I did.
Minongu, yeah.
I'm not sure he's starting, but yeah, props for the real left field angle there.
I'm not sure he will either, but it's a great chance to start him. They're out of the tournament. Give him a go. He's offered something whenever I've watched a bit of Seattle. Raw, but let's see what he's got. If he comes off the bench, maybe he could be the guy who gets the backdoor cover for the goal for them. I could see them scoring late in the game, Seattle, if PSG are miles ahead and just not they don't care, but just a bit more relaxed. Gambler's Gambit. I think there's value on PSG. 2-0 first half at 66-1. Is that how big it is? The exact score. That can't be the score for the first half, surely.
That can't be
then it is a ridiculous price. Dave Clark says Seattle played their ass off against Atletico. Now they're out of the tournament. I wonder if they would take some players. There you go. That's what I'm thinking. Get Minongu in the side, Dave. Tristan Wiggle says PSG to win both halves. We are kind of hoping for a strong PSG performance here, Will. What would sort of your best bet of that game be overall?
It's tricky because if PSG were on the -2 line, if that was the main line, and you could get -110, that'd be my best bet. But they're not. They're on the 2.25 line. As you say, there could be a backdoor late goal for Seattle, which kind of makes your play, the -1 first half, a little bit more attractive. And then you've got Barcola, Mendes, and Kvaratskhelia on the player props. But I'm going to go with your play, Steve. Actually, PSG first half -1. I'm going to try and steal your limelight there and try and make it my own play. How'd you like that?
Absolutely. I think first half Asian handicap now -120. It's actually shortened live on air. People backing it.
Must be.
But I do think it's definitely in their interest to get the job done very, very early, and then they can mess around in the second half with substitutions if they want it. I think we're looking at a big win. I'm going to say 4-5-1 to PSG actually here. I think they're going to have a nice game. It's not too hot here in Seattle against a really poor defense. So, good luck to everyone, whatever you're taking in this particular game. And then in terms of the qualification, it's really interesting. I think PSG will actually... I think Atletico will win against Botafogo, but it might only be by 1 goal. So in which case, you're probably looking at PSG winning the group and Botafogo second. But it could go either way. And the outcome of this group, obviously Group A players will be aware of it. And we've got a situation Inter Miami against Palmeiras here. The tie's at +150. Immediately, anyone who just even follows soccer casually will think, wow, +150 for the tie, that's pretty short. The reason for that is if it ends in a tie, both teams will definitely qualify for the next round of the tournament. It's actually +155 now. I think that's mighty tempting, Will. I've seen this before. It doesn't always happen, but there's a guarantee here if it ends a draw. It should be a low-paced game, not too much intensity. If it is a level with 10, 15, 20 minutes to go, almost certainly, surely, neither team's going to take the risk. It's interesting because sometimes for these sort of matches, the tie is knocking around even money, right? So, is this a play for you, the tie at +155?
It is, yeah. It actually is. I normally don't get involved in ties in this type of market, but normally, like you say, they're shorter than this one. I don't know why this one's a little bit longer. There is a general trend in these kind of like subconsciously prearranged draw type markets where people betting early will all jump on the tie because it seems obvious. And then market dynamics on the day of game will mean that the draw will kind of drift. I don't know exactly why the dynamics are that way, but it tends to play out like that. And we are seeing the draw drift now. It was +140 earlier in the day. Like you say, it's out now to +155. I wouldn't actually be surprised if that drifts a little bit more. And actually, if you are a tie backer, which I will be at some point in this game, it might actually be worth waiting for live, because when these markets get set live and the algorithms and the models start pricing them, the draw doesn't shorten that quickly. And you do normally get a window to kind of check how both teams are approaching it. And if in those first 5 minutes you get the chance, you haven't played the tie, you get the chance to see those 5 minutes and see how both teams are approaching it. If it's still 0-0, I'm pretty sure, well, whatever the scoreline really, the tie is not going to be much shorter, if shorter at all. And you might get even bigger live just because of that algorithmic kind of dominance of the in-play markets. So that's my angle. The total is just tricky, because if this were a normal game, you don't back under 2.25 in Miami games, full stop, really. Regardless of how defensively solid Palmeiras are. But, it's not a normal game, right? And if it does play out with that tie kind of, easy paced kind of game, then you don't really want to be backing the over either. I kind of did the maths and tried to figure out exactly how much premium the market is putting on this tie price at +150. Versus, it probably would be +250 otherwise. And +150 implies a 40% chance of a tie, as opposed to if the tie were +250, that implies a 29% chance of a tie. So basically what the market is saying is it thinks there's an 11% chance of this being a kind of subconsciously prearranged draw. And a kind of arranged draw. And I think that's a bit low, basically. I think 11% is just a bit low. I think when I try and come up with a number of how likely is it that this is just a tie, and that both teams are just going to approach it with that mindset. I think it should be more than 11% premium. So I think, if you want to play it now at plus 155, I think that's decent. I'm personally going to wait till it gets turned live and either hoping for a bigger price or to just get a bit more of an insight, a bit more information on my side. But yeah, aside from that, my thoughts are Inter Miami are a pretty poor team. They could quite easily have lost both games so far. And I think Palmeiras are a pretty good team. So if this were a normal game state, I'd be all over Palmeiras here, but it's not. And I just think the tie suits both. And I think there's a bigger than 40% chance it will end up a tie.
I mean, 0-0 is a 6-1 shot. 1-1 tie is plus 350. I mean, the most recent ones that have landed that I can remember in the Conference League, I think it was Boris Banja Luka against someone, guaranteed the progression, and that did end 0-0. I think the tie was about plus 125 in that game. And then the Romania match last summer, of course, in the Euros, that ended 1-1. And so, I know Nigel often likes to back the 1-1 in these games. It's one of them, if one team does score, they just kind of sit back so much. And the other team everything has to go, they have to go in that direction. So I suppose for me, if I was to go with the correct score, I would say 1-1 myself. Not sure about you.
Don't really know, Steve. I was looking through the correct score prices, hoping to get a big price myself on 2-2, but I know that's much more far-fetched. But I was hoping for plus 1,500, and it's around about plus 1,100, so not big enough to tempt me in. But that was just mainly based off the angle that Miami tend to score. They've got Leo Messi, obviously, but they're very vulnerable defensively. But rather than pick a correct score, I'm going to keep it simple and just go for the tie. And the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of waiting to live, because obviously you get a lot more information live on your side. If either team does score whilst you're waiting to place your wager, you're going to get a bigger price on the tie at 1-0 to either team than you would have at 0-0. And it's not going to erode that quickly, Realistically, how short could the tie be at halftime, even if you waited to halftime to get more information? Realistically, how short can it be at halftime if it's 0-0? Can't be any shorter than minus 140. So you're still going to, even if you wait to halftime, worst case scenario is it's 0-0 and both teams are just kicking it about in the middle of the pitch. How short is it going to be? And you're going to have a lot more information on your side. So my play will be, unless it gets to plus 180 pre-match, will be to wait, get 5 minutes of information. If it's obvious, hope that the price is not much shorter than it is now. And if we get a bigger price, we get a bigger price.
Yeah, I love the tactics there, Will. Several suggestions in chat here. Effie Brill saying Palmeiras draw no better than under 3 goals. Duncan thinks the 0-0 is a play here. Brad Betts makes a very good point about the result in the other match. If Porto are 4 or 5-0 up, Inter Miami are laughing. They're in whatever. So you could consider that. Just looking through as well. Yeah, the Messi factor, that's definitely a thing. In terms of the differentials, Kitten out, it's quite complicated. I think the best thing to do is just basically go to the Club World Cup website or several other sources. But head-to-head is the number one. If it's 2 teams together, head-to-head. If 3 teams all together, then you've got to look at the goal difference in the matches between those teams, which that can get pretty complicated, to be brutally honest with you. In terms of money for the game, 75% of the money's on Palmeiras, 57% of the tickets. And Byron does make a good point here. Miami is so poor, Palmeiras could toss it around and could still score a goal or 2 by accident. Palmeiras are by far better than Miami, in my opinion. If this was the first group game, even money, is it? Is that what Palmeiras are? I'd be all over it. But we've got to consider the game state, the situation in the group. So yeah, I like this, Will. Wait 5-10 minutes, see, get the feel of it, and back the tie. And if it goes crazy, just hold off a little bit until someone scores.
Honestly, Steve, that's my recollection from this type of markets, the ones you were describing before, and other kind of markets where the tie's been plus 140 kind of price, and everybody's been all in the tie pre-matches, is when the market gets turned live and the game starts. For whatever reason, the draw drifts, even if it's 0-0. And after 5 minutes, you can get a much bigger price live with much more information on your side, even if it's 0-0. Sod's law, now that I've talked this through and convinced everybody to do that, it will shorten like a steam train whilst the ball's kicked around in the middle of the pitch for the first 15 minutes. But that's the chance I'm taking, and that's what I fancy.
Brad Brett says, what happens if Miami lose by 1? And if it end up level on terms of goal differential, then goals scored is the sorting rule. And then after that, I think it's disciplinary record. And if that's the same, it literally will be toss of a coin, drawing of lots, as we call it in soccer tournaments. It has happened before, very, very rarely, but it can happen. Biggest bet on the game, by the way, over $4,000 and over 2.5 goals at plus 170. As you said, Will, under normal circumstances, over 2.5 goals, which is at plus 128, would look a massive price in this game, wouldn't it? So, don't know whether that's a system play or whatever, but that is the biggest bet on the game on the sportsbook. So, this leaves us with Porto against Ahly, and these guys don't want a draw in the Inter Miami game. If there isn't a draw, then one of them would be able to potentially qualify, depending on who won the game. Porto minus 148 favourites here. I've seen nothing from them in this tournament to warrant backing them at these odds. I think they're done, to be honest. I stick a fork in Porto. I think they've had enough. They want to get home. Ahly at plus 370 and the ties plus 310. I think the match means an awful lot more to the African outfit in this instance. In terms of rankings and ratings, minus 148 on Porto might be fair price. I don't know whether you're going to agree with me there or not, Will, but I just can't be going near them.
Yeah, I think your analysis is bang on. Basically, this is a fairly accurate kind of model ratings based price. I've got Porto minus 3/4, but I think the more human factors mean that Ahly plus 3/4 is a good play here at minus 108, and that price has been getting a little bit bigger as the day's gone on. I think one key factor here is the weather. It's forecast to be 33 degrees at kickoff in New Jersey, I believe. And that's 9 p.m., right? 9 p.m. in New Jersey, it's forecast to be 33 degrees. That's hot. And I went as far as having a little look at the average summer temperature in Egypt versus Portugal. It's 9 degrees Celsius higher in Egypt during the summer months, around about this 33 degrees that it's forecast to be in New Jersey. So I think the conditions will suit them more. As you mentioned, maybe they're slightly more motivated. I'm not sure about that myself. I would like to read the manager's comments before the match to try and get an insight into that, but I haven't had time to do that yet. But yeah, at the end of the day, both teams were outplayed by Palmeiras, and both teams deserve more against Inter Miami. So when you look at it through whatever lens you want to look at it through, it's really hard to justify Porto being 3/4 of a goal favorite here. And then when it comes to the total, I mean, this total is really being priced up as a kind of open must win for both teams. I think normally you'd be seeing 2.5, maybe even 2.25 for this matchup, especially with Ahly. They generally tend to be quite a defensive-minded team in this sort of matchup. So I personally couldn't touch overs with a barge pole, but again, I wouldn't write it off being a bit of a free-for-all, really open game with both teams, playing with some freedom, but also wanting to win to stand any chance of qualifying. If I was looking at the total, I'd be looking at under 3, which just because it's a very high line for this matchup. But my bet is going to be Ahly plus 3/4, minus 108. I just think, with the motivational angle potentially, and then the heat, I think this Porto team actually has quite a lot of quality. Especially Rodrigo Moura, I think it is Rodrigo Moura's the young kid who arguably is the most talented, kind of hottest prospect out of Porto. And then you've got Samu up front. They've got quite a lot of quality there, as normally Porto, Benfica and Sporting would have. But do they, like you say, at the end of a long European season, do they have the desire to really go again in this heat against a team that's really going to be used to conditions and looking to make an impression.
I really like that play. Plus three quarters of a goal on Ahly, and the goal line for me. How can this be a 3-goal line? It's been priced up as a sort of kitchen sink game where, teams have got to go for it. But, it's no guarantee if one of them's winning that they're going to be going through. If it was a guarantee, if one of them was to win, they're definitely through, then it's different, I think. But I believe that the Egyptian side, might have a slightly different mentality to what a lot of European sides have and what maybe you and me have. Like, for them, a draw would probably be pretty good. It's about self-respect, getting prize money, pride for the fans. So, they would, if it was 0-0, I think they'd be okay with it. I really do.
Actually, I think that's another factor, the fans. I'm pretty confident that Al Ahly support will vastly outnumber the Porto support here as well. So that's probably another factor, right? Not least from a motivational perspective, like you're describing. If this were a normal game with equal supports, equal playing field when it comes to weather, equal levels of motivation, then probably the 3/4 is the right line. But we've got all of the kind of more human factors in our favor here at a fair model price. So, that's a green light for me.
Biggest bet on the game again is on the goals. $2,000 on over 3.5 goals at plus 170. So we've got people out there attacking the goal line today. Duncan is right. Third round of matches in group stages do historically tend to produce more goals. But can these two score? It's going to be very, very hot. If Byron says that it's the humidity's up there, then I totally believe him. This guy could live in a sauna, Byron, but if it's hot for him, then it definitely is. It's in the hundreds, I think, in Fahrenheit in the day. It's going to be sticky in the evening. Are Porto really going to want to put that energy and effort in after the tournament they've had? I've got question marks about Porto, but 96% of the money is on them, Will, and 93% of the tickets. So the bettors are still going in for Porto. I would not be in that 96% group, but good luck to them if you're on that. So that concludes it for today. What is your best bet in the Club World Cup for Monday's action, Will?
I'm not going to steal your play, Steve, although I'm very, very tempted.
You can.
Let's just say that's a 5-star play between the two of us. The one that I know is going to be your best play. But I'm not going to steal your limelight, and I'll just say PSG -2 then, because it's a derivative of what my actual best play is. Go ahead.
If that first half handicap wins, then the -2 overall, I'd be surprised if it didn't at least push.
Yeah, but you do have the backdoor cover. You do have the backdoor cover kind of that you've got to be nervous about, unless they're 4-0 up or 5-0 up,
which could happen. Generally could happen.
I do prefer your play, but go ahead with your best play then.
Well, it's got to be my best play now, hasn't it? The -1 first half Asian handicap on PSG. Just good luck whatever anyone is taking today in the Club World Cup or betting around the globe. There are notable live streams you can watch on Bet Rivers. Superettan in Sweden is back underway. Helsingborg playing at GIF Sundsvall as well. They've got a great goal song, GIF Sundsvall, if anyone's ever heard that. So it's quite a catchy tune if you're watching that one live. I mentioned the house specials as well. And of course, anyone new watching live on demand, thank you very much. Any likes or subscriptions to the channel would be greatly appreciated. And of course, the Betting Weekly newsletter, like I mentioned before, do sign up to it. It's completely free. We have 2 per week. The Insiders, an excellent piece of content, come out on Friday. But also we have, like I said, that exclusive pick today from James Eastham. It's on the Man City game against Juventus. And Will, you're going to be back on Wednesday for more. Quick turnaround here for you. I don't know exactly the teams playing on Wednesday. It might be Auckland City, is it? Maybe? No, I don't think it is.
I don't know. I think they're the Tuesday. I think they're tomorrow's card, aren't they? It's Wednesday morning, I think. So
that's
Tuesday
a shame.
night, I think.
Because
I'd love to talk about that game. Dan and I have gone back and forth on the Dan Roebuck, of course. I mean, when I say Dan, we've gone back and forth on the Auckland totals. But But yeah, I'm sure whoever's on will be very keen to talk about the Auckland game.
It's James, I think, tomorrow. You are right. But let's just quickly talk about the total, because you were on the unders, weren't you? Benfica, Auckland. Yeah. We're talking about this off air. The goal line for Boca against Auckland City is 5.5, over under 5.5. And you were suggesting you might be leaning under again.
Yeah, probably. 5 3/4.
You love uncomfortable.
Let's give me a bit more leeway and say the line's under 3/4 in case it's 6-0. The 6-0 that Boca kind of need to target. Under 5 3/4. Tracy, my hero, the Auckland goalkeeper who was so bad in the first game that he got replaced in the second game. Might be back in to save the day. But yeah, it's just one of those uncomfortable bets where everybody's going to be on the same side, and I'm just going to be waiting for the best price to take the other side and be very uncomfortable throughout the whole game. And this Auckland team is probably, the definition of being uncomfortable if you're siding with them. Boca aren't a particularly forward-thinking, fluid. I'm clutching at straws, and it sounds like I'm clutching at straws. But yeah, someone's got to bat the unders, and it'd probably end up being me.
You can get under 6 in that game. Under 6 Asian goals at -139 with Bet Rivers, which is
even better. Let's call it under 6.
Under 6 Asian goals. I'll be looking towards the tall Boca players in that game for some player props. I do think Auckland struggle against that, but let's see. I will be back tomorrow on Betting Weekly Live. I think it's with James Easton. And then me and Will again on Wednesday. Thanks everyone who joined live or on demand. And we'll see you next time. Remember to gamble responsibly. But thanks very much for today's show, Will, as always. And look forward to locking horns again with you on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Let's try and cash some winning tickets tonight. And best of luck to everyone out there.
Take care, y'all. See you next time.